Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. In today's episode, Anthony Power and I are pleased to welcome Jeff LaBerge back to the program. He's the head of capital markets and strategic initiatives at Bitdeer Technologies Group, and we're going to be talking all about their new A3 SEALMINER launch. A lot of detail, a lot of insights into the latest ASIC from Bitdeer in today's video. Before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of Bitdeer and what you think about their SEALMINER platform. With that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, a special edition. We've got Jeff LaBerge back from Bitdeer Technologies. He's the head of capital markets and strategic initiatives. This is a special podcast. Bitdeer just came out with their A3 SEALMINER. We wanted to have Jeff on, do a special talking about this product release and really what it means for Bitdeer moving forward. So Jeff, thanks so much for making the time. Great to see you.
Always good to be on with you fellas. How you doing?
Doing great, and we're sure excited to hear about this. Anthony and I have been a big fan of the SEALMINER really since its genesis. We've followed the first two iterations. This is now the third model, the A3. I understand you guys have a few different versions. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the A3 represents and what this really does for Bitdeer?
Yeah, so look, this is a big announcement for us. I mean, something we're really excited about. I mean, SEALMINER A1 and A2 were obviously quite successful, but two versions of the A3. We have the air-cooled and the hydro, both coming in at 12.5 joules per terahash, which, as of today, makes it the most efficient rig on the market right now. So, I think there's any question in people's minds whether we were going to be competitive in this market, whether we're going to continue to hit the targets we laid out in our roadmap. I think hopefully this kind of puts those to rest. That we're going to be a major player in this industry. So we're excited, man. It's great.
That's awesome. I mean, we've covered you for a few years now, and if people don't realize, you look at some of the size of staff at some of the mining companies. I think you've got more R&D staff at Bitdeer than Mara Holdings having the whole team there. This shouldn't be underestimated what they've produced over this last sort of 12, 18 months in terms of delivering these machines and delivering them on time as well. It's not a case of saying set some targets out there. You've stuck to them targets rigidly, and it now seems obviously with the launch of the A3. It's going to be phenomenal for the company because, like you say, it's the most efficient miner out there. And as we approach, this next halving, machine efficiency is going to be one of the reasons for miners to keep mining. They have to reduce the power cost, and the only way you can do that is having cheaper energy or more efficient mining machines. And you've got the most efficient machine on the market as of today. In terms of how the market's reacted to the A3, I mean, I think when we spoke previously, you'd had some of the A2 orders cancelled and basically re-put back for the new machine coming out because they were satisfied you delivered on the A2 and then realised, hang about, in a few months' time, we're going to be able to get an even more efficient miner. Can you talk about what those orders look like for the A3 and how that's, since we last spoke, how they've increased or not?
Yeah, so I mean, look, I think the sort of the delayed orders that we had in the first quarter was really more a factor of hash price kind of tanking in that first quarter. Those have really all come back. A lot of those orders have been fulfilled. We've sold 6 exahash of SEALMINER A2s and A2 Pros this year. Really without putting much effort into it. In other words, we've been prioritizing self-mining, just given the amount of power that we have coming online at this time. We don't want that sitting idly. So that's where the priority has been really for both. So, we expect to continue to do that. Our first delivery of A3 will should be coming in about October. And a lot of those will go into our own fleet. We've set that 40 exahash target, and, we think we're going to exceed that by year end. But we've got a lot of power coming on in Norway and Bhutan. So we're gonna put these in all of our major markets, Norway, Bhutan, some in Texas probably as well. We really want to showcase its capabilities in all different environments and different markets that our customers are going to be in. They're going to want to see stability, not only in cold environments, but can these operate in Texas and maintain the efficiency and the hash rate? And our early testing shows that they can. So we're excited about it.
That's the real benefit of having a company that builds its own machines. You have a dual strategy. If you don't decide to sell them, you just implement them in your own facilities there, grow that hash rate. And there's no doubt, having seen your hash rate grow significantly just in the month of August, we're expecting obviously that target of 40 to be achieved. And you're now saying it should be higher than that by the end of the year. And that puts you really then in the sort of like in the top tier in terms of those 3 or 4 miners who are at the sort of close to the 50 exahash or just above that. This will give you great cash flow, I'm assuming, then, as you start looking to advance other aspects of the strategies that you're looking at, because not only are you a producer of mining machines and actually a large self miner, we can call you a large self miner, you're over 30 exahash. But you're also looking, obviously, to develop more in the HPC AI space as well.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So, and I think the market is coming around to this vertical integration strategy that we've been talking about for a long time now. I mean, this producing our own ASICs just gives us tremendous flexibility in our business model, because we can produce as many ASICs as we can get our hands on and know that we're always going to have a home for them, whether it's on our own data centers or whether it's selling them to third parties. And having that optionality to either run them internally, at a meaningful discount to what the rest of the market is paying. We're talking about a payback of maybe 8 to 10 months versus 16, 18, 20 months for some of our peers. Or we can sell them to third parties and turn that cash plus our profit over in maybe 7 or 8 months during that production cycle. So it's a meaningful cash flow uplift, much more attractive free cash flow profile, and we think that strategy is really going to pay off in the long run once we start becoming much more market based in our allocation decisions, which we could expect to happen sometime maybe middle of next year. I think when a lot of our internal capacity has been utilized. We always want to maintain that flexibility to implement that strategy. So, we think we'll always have some power on hand to put some rigs to work.
In terms of production, you're obviously producing a lot of these machines in Asia at the moment. You're also, I think you indicated that you're looking obviously to have some of that production in the US market. Bryce and myself, we just looked at the global hash rate today, and we were astonished that it's like nearly 1100 exahash, which means that, maybe not as much in North America, but there's hash rate coming on all over the globe at the moment, and that's making it quite challenging. So with that hash rate going up, obviously there's more requirement for machines. Are you seeing a pickup in requirements outside of North America in terms of growth for potential sales?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, this is a global market, and we intend to serve that, not just the North American market, but the entire global market. So a lot of the demand we've seen has been outside of the U.S. Obviously quite a bit has been in the U.S. as well, which is why we are looking to pivot a portion of our manufacturing to the U.S. We want to be able to service our customers where they are and deliver rigs from their home countries. So U.S. miners would like U.S. manufactured rigs, and we want to be able to provide that. And then we continue producing in Asia, possibly other countries, to service the rest of the world. So we think it's a great strategy. We bring some jobs, bring some manufacturing back to America, which is a good thing. And I think it helps our strategy as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I want to talk about that U.S. manufacturing again in a second, but before we do, you mentioned the opportunity to sell these SEALMINERs to third parties. We were just at H.C. Wainwright in New York. We talked to a lot of the miners. There's a lot of interest from the pubcos in the SEALMINER platform as well. So can you talk to us a little bit about the interest you've seen from some of your peer miners or even nation states coming into the game here?
Yeah, so our strategy with the A2, again, was we wanted to obviously prioritize self mining with it, but we did want to get some out there to a wide audience of of potential end users. And, that included a lot of the, larger institutional miners, both, some of the bigger pubcos and private companies. And the feedback from what I've heard has been great. So idea being, get them used to us as a vendor, get them used to our technology, form factor, test that out with the A2 in smaller quantities. We really think that the demand for A3 and ultimately A4 obviously is going to be much higher. And like I said, we want to have them comfortable with us, knowing that we're a reliable producer, somebody that they can trust.
Yeah, that's great. Now, in terms of that US manufacturing, Anthony just alluded to setting up some facilities in North America. That obviously helps for a number of reasons: distribution, transportation, tariffs, a long list here. Can you talk to us a little bit about that strategy, when that's going to come online, and kind of the amount or volume we could expect compared to the overall portfolio?
Yeah, so we're shooting for the end of this year, but some of these things take a bit more time. So likely first half of next year we'll be up and running and producing. We haven't really announced specific volumes here. I think it's fair to say that the majority of a lot of our volume will still be produced outside of the U.S. but we'll continue to wrap it up. We think it will be effective in mitigating a lot of the tariffs because chips imported as a raw material from Taiwan, from TSMC, have been deemed of national importance. So those can come in tariff-free. And then, if you recall, the chip cost is about 75% of the cost of producing the rig. So, the balance of manufacturing can be done here. And we don't think it'll be a significant impact on pricing. So, we're excited, and it'll ramp up based on demand.
Now, one of the big things that we've seen in the last few years is performance of mining machines. We've spoke to many of the CEOs in the space, and some of the companies actually moved from one manufacturer to another manufacturer because the performance of some of the machines just weren't as good, and there were batches that were just not working as well as they should be. I know it's early days for Bitdeer. Are you finding performance levels at a sort of anticipated level? Or are you seeing, any issues with any of the machines that you brought out in the three different phase machines?
Yeah, so like I said, the feedback on the A2, both internally and externally, has been very positive. So, obviously, a couple things you look for. One, are we hitting the nameplate efficiency, which I think it sounds like we are. But also things like stability. Are we maintaining the consistent hash rate? Are we able to do that in hot and cold environments? We have these rigs plugged in Norway. We have them plugged in Texas, Bhutan, and everything I've heard is that they're performing as or better than expected. So again, I think it's just about getting the market comfortable with us as theoretically a new entrant into this market here, and comfortable with just being able to plug us in right next to or replacing other manufacturers.
And with these machines, I looked at the models that you have on the website there. Are you also seeing, even though these machines are becoming more effective, more efficient, more powerful in terms of terahash, they appear to be even smaller than some of the old, like the S19 machines there. So for big Bitcoin mining companies, may not necessarily need the size of some of the facilities that they've got to get that same level of hash rate coming out.
Yeah, so I think on the air-cooled side, we're kind of still in that old shoebox form factor, and the idea being there is that we don't have any switch costs. So in other words, you can switch out Bitbane, you can switch out WhatsApp and plug a SEALMINER in right behind it with really no friction. Now the emergence of the hydro mining miner has been where we've seen that shift in the form factor, where now we're looking more like what a GPU or a sort of a more traditional data center may look like. We're very bullish on hydro. We think that's going to be the future here. Obviously, the same way similar way we're cooling GPUs and other high performance computing chips. So we think there's going to be a big adoption of hydro over the next couple of years.
But even using those hydro, and if you look at I think your range is something like 240 terahash to 690 terahash. If you think back to the S90s, which are just over 100 terahash,
Right.
that's like 6 machines being replaced by one machine, which looks even smaller than one of those 6 machines.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great point. So, getting more from what you have now. So it's we think that's going to be the theme through this next cycle here is that, obviously power and space, right now is going to be much more constrained than it was last time around. A lot of the low-hanging fruit has been picked, and obviously we've got the HPC and AI game that's kind of come to town too. So a lot more competition for new power. So, we think that sort of plays into our business model in that, in order to stay relevant and stay, keep your spot, in global hash rate, upgrading your fleet is going to be really the best and most efficient way to do that. So, we're excited to be able to get into that industry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about form factor and density there. So you read my mind, Anthony. We have two more for you on the list, Jeff.
Sure.
The next one, talking about the efficiency, I recall a slide out of your investor deck, essentially showing the efficiency curve of these four models. You guys are tracking very, very close to guidance there, again, in terms of delivery timeline and the efficiency guidance. Question in terms of the A4, I know this is a new chip design. You guys have a lot of new patents associated with it. What is your level of confidence in terms of that delivery timeline and delivery efficiency?
Yeah, so on the efficiency side, talking to Harris, he would tell you, you saw him at the Wainwright conference, he's very confident in achieving that. So, they've been able to achieve that in a lot of the simulations that they've done, running some of the software simulations. So, we're confident there. Obviously, anytime you're dealing with some type of new technology like this, that is groundbreaking, timing is always, sort of the biggest risk factor. And I think, Harris would tell you that. If there's any risk to this, it's, could it slip a bit, and it has, a little bit now. So, but we think a tape out in early 26 is still really on the table. And, that could best case scenario have these ready, toward the latter half of 2026. So, within this market cycle. And again, at that, 6.5 joule per terahash efficiency, we think this really changes the game, and nobody else is going to be able to come close to that.
What's the sort of biggest bottleneck you're seeing at the moment, though, in this sort of the manufacturing of these machines?
So in the development phase or the development, so it's what Harris talked about on the earnings call. It's the software side of it. So not to get too technical, and I'm not the guy to get that technical anyway, but from what I understand is these software or the chip design typically uses off-the-shelf software products from Cadence and Synopsys that work with TSMC's traditional sort of designs. Because this is a new design, we've not really been able to fully rely on those off-the-shelf technology or softwares, and we've had to bring in a team to actually write some custom software that we use to validate and test some of these things. The efficiency, things like that. So, that's been the biggest, I think, delay, reason behind the delays. But as Harris said, we've made a lot of progress on that over the last couple of months. And, we think we're on the right track.
Now, the last question for me, and then I'll pass it back to Anthony to close out here. Another slide I recall from a few prior decks is the TAM, or total addressable market, of the ASIC global opportunity here. I know you guys had threw out some, I guess, numbers in the 20-30% range. Again, based on what you're seeing in terms of uptake, competitive landscape, how is Bitdeer feeling about capturing that portion of this global opportunity?
Yeah, we think we're positioned very well. So if you think about it, we do see this as somewhere between a $4 and $6 billion a year addressable market over the next 3 to 5 years. So, we see ourselves, look, just on the back of the A3 technology, we think that alone, could warrant a pretty meaningful share of the market, just, somewhere that's up at the top of the market, and just really on the premise of supply chain diversification. We think miners are looking to diversify their suppliers, and, we think just on the back of that, we can take meaningful market share. Now the A4, look, we think that could be a game changer, and that could very well push us into that top spot. Yeah, we're confident. We think we've got great technology, and I think the market's going to realize that.
And finally, from me, I mean, when we talked about all these models you've achieved on time and the A4 coming in early next year, what happens then? Is there,
So
is there a plan to increase development of A4 for different conditions, like for hydro, for air, or is there even aspirations of? I mean, I go back to when the S19 XP came out, and we saw that we thought there was going to be a leveling of the technological curve, but
yep.
it's just been battered. It just continues to increase. And so, is there any expectation that there'll be some sort of announcement to say we think we can do better once the A4 is out there?
Yeah, no, look, absolutely. So if you recall, the A4 is actually built, not on the latest and greatest, process node. So, right now we're at, 3 nanometers. The next generation is going to be 2 nanometers, but the A4 actually takes a step back to an older process node, one that's less in demand by, hyperscalers and, NVIDIA, Apple, and others that are looking to get a lot of allocation on those more advanced nodes. So that's the beauty of it. And once we've mastered it on the older generation nodes, we would look to bring that up into some of the newer generation ones. And so we think there's even room for more improvement beyond what the A4 can do.
That's incredible to hear. Yeah, Anthony and I are watching closely this space, but you guys are definitely pioneering, and so incredible to watch this journey from really the conception to now the third iteration of the SEALMINER. So, Jeff, we appreciate your time today. Great insight as always. Thanks for stopping by. If you guys have any additional questions for Bitdeer, for Jeff, or about the SEALMINER, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. Jeff, I'll hand it back to you for sign off, and great seeing you.
Yeah, guys, thanks a lot for having me on. This is an exciting announcement, and appreciate you guys letting us discuss.
We'll see you back here soon.